Welcome to Dr. Nicholas Jenner podcast, and today's subject is all about the nervous system. The nervous system in relationships, why you react, chase, shut down, and how you can change that. But before we get into relationships, I want to define what I mean by the nervous system, because it's often used in different ways. The autonomic nervous system is the body's regulation system. It governs arousal, stress responses, and recovery. It continuously integrates information from inside the body and from the environment. Facial expression, tone of voice, proximity, uncertainty, conflict, rejection, criticism, and it adjusts your physiology accordingly. Much of this happens outside of conscious awareness. So in simple terms, it's the system that decides whether you are safe enough to stay connected or whether you need to protect yourself. The system is partly influenced by temperament and biology, but it's also shaped by learning, especially in childhood. Early environments teach the nervous system what to expect from other people. If care is generally consistent and repairs after conflict are reliable, the system becomes better at returning to baseline. If care is inconsistent, volatile, critical, emotionally absent or unpredictable, the system adapts in a different direction. It becomes more sensitive to threat cues. It relies more on vigilance, appeasement, pursuit, control, or withdrawal. These are not failings, they are adaptations to survive. This is why people can know better intellectually and still do the same thing over and over again. Insight lives in the thinking brain. Reaction is state dependent. When the nervous system is activated, access to reflection, perspective, and inhibition reduces. You become faster, narrower, and more certain. Your behavior becomes organized around threat reduction. That brings us to the central clinical point. Many relationship difficulties are not failures of communication, they're failures of regulation. People attempt difficult conversations while activated, then interpret the predictable outcome as evidence that the relationship is impossible, or that they are too much. More often, it means they are flooded. A useful first question is not what do I say, it is what state am I in? If you are dysregulated, the priority is reduce arousal before you try to resolve conflict. Let's start with one of the clearest markers of nervous system activation, urgency. Urgency in relationships sounds like, I need to reply now, I need reassurance now, I need to fix this now, I need to clarify now, I need to know where I stand now. Urgency can be mistaken for attraction or chemistry, but clinically it often reflects threat activation. If someone is inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, or unpredictable, the nervous system experiences uncertainty as danger. The system then attempts to restore safety through proximity, contact, explanation, reassurance seeking, or overgiving. In codependency, this becomes a pattern. Safety is pursued through managing the relationship. The practical intervention is simple. Do not act on urgency. Introduce delay. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, overnight where possible. The delay is not a technique to suppress emotion. It's a method of interrupting the reinforcement loop in which contact temporarily reduces distress. If you repeatedly use reassurance to regulate, you train the nervous system to demand reassurance whenever uncertainty appears. This is particularly visible in the texting spiral, checking the phone, rereading messages, analysing tone, interpreting silence, drafting and redrafting responses. This is just not cognitive overthinking, it's a psychological pursuit response. Uncertainty activates threat. The person attempts to regulate via contact. The moment relief arrives, when the reply comes, the behaviour is reinforced. The intervention is psychological first, then behavioural. Step away from the phone. Change context. Move the body for 1 or 2 minutes. Slow the breath and extend the exhale. You're not trying to achieve calm. You're trying to reduce arousal enough to regain access to judgment. Only then do you decide whether a response is necessary. Next, it helps to understand how threat responses look in relationships. The common categories are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. In clinical terms, these are protective responses organized around mobilization, avoidance, shutdown, or appeasement. Fight can look like criticism, interrogation, raising intensity, insisting on immediate resolution, or attempting to win certainty. Flight looks like withdrawal, avoidance, leaving, going silent, or staying busy to evade vulnerability. Freeze looks like blankness, dissociation, loss of speech, or shutdown during conflict. And fawn is appeasement, which is a major issue of codependency. Excessive politeness, over-agreement, apologizing quickly, over-explaining, or managing the other person's mood to keep the environment safe. The point is not to label yourself, it is to identify your default protective strategy and intervene earlier. A simple rule is, if you're flooded, you pause. Pausing is not avoidance, it's the correct sequencing of regulation before problem solving. A useful script is brief and behavioural. I'm getting overwhelmed. I need 10 minutes. I will come back and continue. If the relationship cannot tolerate a pause, that is clinically relevant information. It suggests a poor capacity for repair and co-regulation. Now to a common consequence of dysregulation, the after-argument hangover. Many people ruminate for hours after conflict, cannot sleep, feel nauseous, restless, shaky, or mentally stuck. This is not weakness. It's incomplete recovery. The nervous system has not returned to baseline. It is still mobilized. The intervention here is not more discussion late at night. It's down-regulation and a structured repair. Down-regulation can include reducing stimulation, warm shower, light stretching, slow breathing, and avoiding phone scrolling, which tends to maintain activation. Then if repair is needed, it is scheduled. Let's talk tomorrow and reset properly. Repair is not a luxury, it's a key mechanism by which the nervous system learns safety in a relationship. One of the more subtle clinical issues is that calm can feel unfamiliar to someone whose system is adapted to intensity. If early relationships involved unpredictability, the nervous system may associate activation with attachment. Consistency can feel flat or boring. Predictability can feel suspicious. This does not mean calm is wrong. It means the system is conditioned to arousal. Over time, repeated exposure to steadiness and effective repair can recalibrate what safe connection feels like. People-pleasing is another area commonly misdescribed as personality. Clinically, it's often fawning and codependent. It's appeasement used to reduce threat. The person says yes quickly, avoids disagreement, softens needs and prioritizes harmony. Later, resentment builds or the person collapses into exhaustion. The practical intervention is to remove automatic agreement. A simple sentence, "Let me think about that and get back to you," creates a pause, reduces threat-driven compliance, and allows a more accurate answer. Finally, this framework applies beyond relationships. Procrastination can be freeze. Compulsive scrolling can be dissociation. Overworking can be flight. Indecision can be threat-based inhibition. If you treat these patterns as character defects, you increase shame and arousal, which worsens the behavior. If you treat them as state-based strategies, you can intervene more effectively. Reduce arousal first, then take a small step. So the episode's organizing clinical principle is straightforward. State drives behavior. If you want different behavior, you need better state control. The work is not about becoming emotionally flat. It's about reducing threat activation, increasing recovery, and improving repair. This is how the nervous system stops running your relationship patterns by default. If you apply one thing this week, apply sequencing. Notice activation early, pause, down-regulate briefly, then communicate. Small repetitions are how state changes become trait changes over time. So thank you for listening, and until the next time.